Good morning and welcome to the BlackUSA.News morning show. My name's Donnie Glover and we have a topic for you today. We're going to be talking with an administrator from the Small Business Administration. Of course, in the middle of COVID, one of the things we've been pushing here at BlackUSA.News and Be More News is the state of Black businesses. As we well know, some 41% of Black businesses have died amid COVID. That compares to 17% of white businesses. So clearly, our Black businesses are in trouble. If America catches a cold and Black America catches pneumonia. Beautiful weather today here in the city of Baltimore. It's going to be hot, 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 hot. Make sure you lay low, drink plenty of water, stay out the sun, respect the heat, and try not to get upset. The weekend is coming. Here in the city of Baltimore, of course, has been very violent. It's as if nobody is driving the car. Somebody does not know what they're doing. That's what it seems to me. That's what it seems to a lot of residents here in the city of Baltimore. The violence is just off the hook, off the chain. And as my daddy said, we can do better than this. So we're going to be joined momentarily with Bibi Hidalgo. And Bibi is an administrator, again, with the Small Business Administration. Let me share with you what the topic is. Bear with me a second. Been researching and researching all day. Okay, here we go. And I don't like reading to you, so I'll try to paraphrase it. And this is dated August 26th, so this came out yesterday. And special thank you, let me say, to Ron Busby over at the U.S. Black Chambers. Smacking Seafood Crab Feast is Sunday to get a ticket. Smacking Seafood, we have to send you a invoice because we don't just go advertising for free. This is a business. Rico, good morning, Rico. Good morning, everyone. We got a special show with you, Rico. We're going to be talking with Ms. Hidalgo from the Small Business Administration. And last but not least, the fires down here. More fires in West Baltimore. This is intentional. Okay, let's go straight to the jugular. Good morning, Bibi. How are you?
Good morning, Mr. Glover. How are you?
I'm great and very grateful. I must say a very special thank you to our mutual colleague, Mr. Ron Busby of the U.S. Black Chambers. He insisted that we stop the presses and bring on Miss Bibi.
Well, I have to say, Ron Busby is such an exceptional advocate for Black-owned businesses across the United States, minority-owned businesses. You know, it's so helpful for me in my position to get a pulse from him on our direction and what we need to do to affect change and make sure that we empower minority-owned businesses and tap into their talent and extraordinary innovation that will make a difference for the U.S. government. So I'm grateful to him.
I should also thank you for Tiffany. Tiffany has been very astute, very helpful. And in our line of work, it's always a pleasure to deal with a consummate professional. So many thanks to Tiffany and your staff. I got to ask, just for starters, how did you get to where you are? Has this always been a passion of yours?
It started during the Obama administration. And I was working at the time at the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. And the White House came to my chief of staff and said, you know, we're getting hit hard on the issue of minority business contracting and the Recovery Act. And what we're doing right now isn't working, and we needed a sea change. And so at that time, I staffed our Deputy Secretary, Ron Sims. We did events around the country, but we realized it's not just about doing events. We need to, you know, look at the policies and see what we can do differently with federal contracting. You know, I don't know, Donnie, if you know, we're the largest purchaser in the globe at about $560 billion every single year. And Congress has these congressional goals, which are really a beacon for the world. I don't know to what extent that exists in other countries, you know, 23% small business goal, 5% small disadvantaged business, and good morning, and 5% women-owned, the HUBZone service disabled veteran, those are 3%. And so that all together amounts to 130 billion right now a year that goes to small businesses, Black-owned, Hispanic, tribal, Asian American, and as well as women-owned service disabled veterans. So at that time, as we start to look at what do we do to continue to build and make sure that minority-owned businesses in particular can really benefit from this resource, and that the federal government can benefit from partnering with minority businesses. And that's when they asked me to go to the White House, and I staffed Valerie Jarrett on an effort for a year there to make sure that federal agencies, all 24 agencies, were making this a priority. And so that after that initiative, that was the first time that we had met the overall 23% small business goal in close to a decade. And one of the things I will tell you that we realize is there's so much emphasis on the supply side, the vendors. Are they contract ready? Do they have the technical skill set? And we wanted to flip that on its head, because you and I know there are plenty of businesses in this country that have extraordinary capacity, ability, they're innovators. To me, in my mind, it's not about the businesses, it's about the demand. There you got the supply and the demand. So if you focus on the demand side, what are we doing to make sure that our 3,000 federal buying offices are going out of their way to connect with Black-owned businesses, with Latino-owned businesses? And part of that is, we've got our incentives right in the federal government? Because you can have all the statute in the world, all the laws, all the regulations, you name it, tinkering, making it, but there's always a way around. So and yet, if there are incentives like career bonuses, those do, we do have that in the federal government. If they're somehow connected to their buying activity, and in particular, these important congressional goals, that's when you see a difference. And so that's really a lot of what we're focusing on, what we focused on during the Obama administration, and now we're building on that. And by the way, it was Vice President Biden's team at the time that encouraged Valerie Jarrett's wonderful team to bring me on to do, to focus just on this. So I'm thrilled to have worked with President Obama on this, and now President Biden, because for both it's been a really important priority. And I think we have a huge opportunity at this moment with him and both Administrator Isabella Guzman. On his first day in office, January 20th, he signed the Racial Equity and Underserved Communities Executive Order. And in that order is a line on racial equity in procurement. To me, that's just so remarkable.
I got to jump in here, Bibi. So for one, you are Latino? I heard the accent when you were pronouncing one of the Spanish names.
Yeah, I am Latina. My parents were born in Cuba, so I was born and raised here.
Muy bien.
Buenos días, señora.
Gracias.
I am Latina as well. So look at the diversity you have here. Yo soy panameña, sí.
De verdad, ay, a mí me encanta Panamá.
So let me also say, Bibi, that when it comes to business, as you mentioned, the 8A program here in Baltimore, Perrin J. Mitchell, this is the home of Perrin J. Mitchell, who was one of the authors, to my understanding, of the 8A program. And also you mentioned Valerie Jarrett. I wanted to tell you that my first visit to the Obama White House in 2008, she was the very first person that I met.
Amazing.
And literally, not long after, I remember actually literally bumping into Ron Busby at the White House. I'd only known him a couple of years, but I literally bumped into him at the White House. So you come from good stock. But let's get to the issue du jour. The SBA announces moratorium on bona fide place of business requirements for the 8A business development program. This is something that's very important to you.
Yes, and I want to piggyback on what you mentioned about Congressman Perrin Mitchell, because thanks to him, we have this extraordinary program, which is the 8A program. You know, the original title in the statute is Minority Business and Capital Development Program. So I'd love to get back to that. But the 8A program, born out of the civil rights movement, and very much a vision of Congressman Perrin Mitchell and Black leaders around the United States. And it's such an extraordinary tool that we have in the United States government. And it's breathtaking. I'm so thrilled that it's exists to this day. It has had a lot of threats, and it continues to, which we can talk about at some point. But it's something that we will continue to embrace and uplift because of the impact that it has on minority communities across the United States. And essentially what it means is if you get certified as an 8A business, you're in the program for 9 years, and a buyer in the federal government can do a sole source contract with you. And so instead of having to go through a competitive bidding process, they can look at a few different 8A firms that have the capability and just choose one of them and contract directly with them. Now there's a threshold, 4.5 million for all general contracts, and then 8.5, I think, for manufacturing. So there is a threshold on those sole source awards, but it has been seismic in terms of the impact that it's had on Black-owned businesses, Latino-owned businesses, across the U.S. So to your question, or to your point about what we were excited to announce today, we're trying to figure out, actually, this was day before yesterday, we were trying to figure out what can we do to provide some relief to our federal contractors. We've got the PPP program, we've got COVID idle, disaster assistance, shuttered venues, restaurants. But we have to continue to look at all the different ways that we can support our nation's business owners during this time of crisis. And one of the things we kept hearing from our 8A construction firms is this rule that I got to open an office everywhere I do business is hurting me. And it's a statute that goes back a while back. So some of this is so technical, but ultimately what it means is putting dollars back into the pockets of the business owners, into the hands of the business owners. Because I'll give you an example. I met one tribal business owner in Arizona this week who had to open 12 offices around the country based on all the contracts that he had. So if he can close 11 of those and use that to pay his employees, to support the business during this time of crisis, that's what we're looking to do. We couldn't change the statute. We put it actually into the infrastructure bill to remove that statute once and for all, especially in this virtual environment. We put that, and we actually asked for an increase in the sole source award. Unfortunately, it was taken out. We worked really hard with Senator Cardin's team and Representative Nydia Velasquez's team on the draft legislation. Those teams were really committed to making sure that we change this, and it was taken out in committee at the Senate level. So we had our hands a bit tied there. But we realized, given that it's a national emergency, we can suspend the bona fide office rule through September 2022. So I do want to say this is just the beginning. This is an indication of what we have at our disposal, the tools we have, Administrator Guzman's commitment to figure out what do we need to do so that ultimately it means millions and millions of revenue back in the hands of our nation's minority-owned businesses. You're on mute, Donnie.
Tamara, you want to chime in? You're the expert here. This is our resident expert. She's
All right.
former MBE chief for the city of Baltimore. She's been helping us to cover Black business development. We frown upon the term minority because Blacks, it started off helping Black folks, but then everybody's a minority now, including white men who got white women out front. So, we're tad radical in that department. Come on, Tamara.
Good morning, and thank you for joining us, Bibi. This is really such a pleasure to meet with you and speak with you and hear about the federal program. It's great. There's progress being made. There's challenges locally. Yes, I did run a local Baltimore City minority business and women-owned the office and within the law department, and we had a lot of challenges. So it's good to see the federal level. Donnie and I actually had a show recently for small businesses, and we were encouraging small businesses to get 8A certified. Our local businesses, because our program isn't really working locally, but we were showing the numbers are just so drastic with the federal government. So we appreciate the work. We know that's political will at work there, strong political will moving the program forward. And so, we did see the headline about dropping the requirement to have an office across the country. It's really positive. It may impact some of the local, like we're trying to fill up a lot of our spaces here in the city, but given the pandemic, it's just impossible. So that was a very smart move. I just had a question. I mean, we're talking about the program in general. I did have a question about size standards. I know there's going to be some changes there as well. Are you able to speak about that, or the SBA size standard? I think it's for some manufacturing or certain businesses, retail businesses. That's up and coming, and comments are due, I think.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we are exploring. We have been hearing from civic leaders and business owners that we have to look at the standards again and make sure that it's relevant to today. As a matter of fact, president of the National Urban League, Mark Morial, called us and asked if we could talk about that in particular, because he's been hearing from a lot of businesses too. So we are having conversations to see what kind of changes we need to make to reflect the needs and interests of the business owners. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that and what you think we can do to improve.
Well, we did actually implement using SBA size standards for the city size standard when I was running the office, because initially we were using some arbitrary numbers. I don't know where they came from for our program. So it was great to have that as a reference. And we were able to graduate businesses out that were just simply larger than even the SBA standard. So I think it's an interesting point, but given the pandemic, again, I don't see that the size standard would necessarily increase. If it would be beneficial to some of the businesses struggling, I don't know that it would be beneficial to increase the size standard for some of the businesses. Because given the pandemic, a lot of the small businesses are making less, so increasing it is going to bring in more competition that have more resources, when a lot of the super small businesses are completely struggling, and they're not growing. They're not even close to the size standard. So I'm going to definitely give some input into, I'm not sure when they're due, but I think it's September sometime. I'm not sure, but I will definitely look into that and give some input. I'd be really cautious on increasing it, though.
I appreciate that, because we do get, interest on both sides, increasing, decreasing. And I worry, if we do increase it, how will that impact the smaller owned businesses, and especially the ones that have had to contract during this crisis. I will tell you, my brother and I were running a business the last about 6 years. He and I both worked in the Obama White House together. He was managing private sector engagement, and we started a firm advising corporations on their minority business strategy. Black, Hispanic in particular was our focus. And I don't know if you know, but my brother, we were business partners for all those years. We're best friends. Helped raise him. And on March 1st, 2020, he wrote to my brothers and sisters and my dad and me and said he wasn't feeling that well that morning, and he had a pre-existing esophageal condition, and he passed away that night in his sleep at the age of 41. So this was in Miami, Florida, and we pushed hard to find out if it was COVID. We never got straight answers from them, but we did do an independent autopsy at Columbia University, and they said his air sacs collapsed in his lungs. So not to get off.
We're sorry for your loss, Bibi. What was his name? What's his name?
I'm sorry. What was
his name? What was his name?
Patrick Hidalgo.
Well, God bless Patrick in the heavens.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
You know, not often do we have administrators on any level who have run a business. And that's what you and Tamara have in common, in the sense that it's one thing when you have people running the city, the state, the federal, who are running it, but it's a different thing when they are business owners. And I submit to you, Bibi, I think that's the big challenge with a lot of our elected officials. Baltimore has one of the highest percentages of Black elected officials in the country, but too many of them know nothing about running a business. And I don't think they can be the best advocates for us businesses when they don't know what we go through. The therapeutic value of one business owner helping another.
Yeah, it is so important, because it was really, it was hard. It's the hardest thing I've ever done, I have to say, is running a business and making payroll and, landing those contracts. And it's a huge amount of pressure. And then on top of that, in the beginning of the pandemic, I actually lost my brother and my business partner.
So see, it wears on the mental, everybody's mental.
Everyone's. And I got to say, when they asked me to join the administration, I said I wasn't ready. At that point, I had just lost my brother about 7 months before. And so I agreed to join the transition team. And I thought, I can help to further his legacy here over these 90 days. But then, when they asked me to join, and Administrator Guzman and some of the team at the White House, they said to me, Bibi, the president is no stranger to tragedy, and you have the lived experience, and we need that at this time. And that, I'm so glad I joined, but it was a tough decision, because the grieving process is just, it takes everything. And to not have him every day, and I just keep thinking he's going to be with me on this journey.
Absolutely. Just call his name. As long as you call his name, he's right there with you.
Thank you.
And you got an angel. Every time we lose somebody, we gain an angel.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So we got to do something together, though, to make sure that we increase. Now that with the president announcing that he wants to increase we've got all these really wonky terms in the federal government, like small disadvantaged business. So that's SDB. And within that, we have yet another, which is the 8A. But in reality, these are game changers. They're major game changers for our communities. And with the president saying he wants another $50 billion to go to small disadvantaged business contracting, now is the moment. But we got to make sure that everyone benefits. It's not
right, because when the first PPP money came down, it went to big boys.
Yeah. And so those are the conversations we're having every day with the White House and the Office of the OMB, essentially, Office of Management and Budget. We got to make sure that this is going to be, within the 8A program, we have what they define as the presumed disadvantaged groups. Again, another one of these wonky terms, but it means, Black-owned businesses that have not gotten their fair share of contract opportunities, Latino-owned businesses, Asian American, tribal. And so we got to make sure that all of those groups, and the president has come right out and said, Black and Latino are the we need to focus more those two business owners. And I don't have to tell you, when our communities hit the glass ceiling in corporate America and elsewhere, you have all these really seasoned executives, professionals that say, well, then I'm going to become my own president. I'm going to become, a CEO and start their own business. So this is where you get access to the top executive talent, and, in the Black and Latino communities in the United States. And for the federal government, I don't see it as, oh, it's a helping hand. I see it as, the federal government, this is where the administrator sees it too. We need to benefit from that innovation and capability and life experience that Black executives and Latino executives have. And so it's just a matter of making sure that we get it right as far as incentivizing our buyers. Make sure that they're going out there, and it's tough work for the contract officers. There's a lot involved in issuing a contract. But that said, if we get this right and they are able to go beyond who they know and start developing a broader network, everyone stands to benefit, the government as well as the businesses.
Bibi, will you be coming to Baltimore? Will you be going to Harlem? Will you be going to Oakland, Black enclaves?
Yeah, we'd love to have you.
I would love to. I actually lived in Baltimore City, and my son was born there.
Whoa, where?
I worked at the Citizens Planning and Housing Association.
CPHA, yeah.
Yeah, I was the housing director there.
Okay.
That was when we got the inclusionary zoning law passed in 2007. Working with AFSCME Council 67, 1199 SCIU, NAACP. Oh, Mr. J. Howard Henderson. I don't know if you know him from.
I know Jay Howard. That's like my stepdaddy.
He is one of my greatest mentors, I have to say.
Are you serious?
Oh, yeah.
So
and I'm sorry, go ahead.
So you saw the slave, you saw in the bottom of the Urban League Church, that's where the Underground Railroad is.
That's right. Yeah.
Impressive.
Yeah, I ended up actually working with the Urban League after I left CPHA, and Mr. Henderson wanted to make sure we kept our coalition going of inclusive housing.
See, you hit us below the belt now. I can't talk no smack to you. You know Jay Howard.
Yeah, he's an extraordinary man, and I learned so much from him. And he encouraged me to join the Obama administration. So quite honestly, I owe a lot to Mr. Henderson.
Wow.
My heroes. Yeah.
Wow.
So
you will be joining us in Baltimore.
Oh, absolutely. Anytime. It's one of my favorite cities in the country. And I would love to do anything to support Baltimore City. And I know it's been tough at this last.
Well, Bibi, you said more about Black business in this 26 minutes than we've heard from a city with a Black mayor, a Black council president, and a Black comptroller. We've heard more from you on Black business than the people who are supposedly running this city. Maybe you can come in. I'm sorry.
Not just heard, but it's the actions, because we have heard a lot during campaigns, and unfortunately we've heard a lot during press conferences. But unfortunately, and I don't know if that you're aware, that Baltimore City, really our program isn't working at all. It's actually putting minority businesses at a disadvantage, because they're it's very subcontractor focused locally, unlike the federal program where it focuses on set-asides. I don't know why we don't have set-asides. I'd love to challenge anything that went to the Supreme Court, the Croson case. So it's more prime focused, because there is actual racism and discriminatory practices within the agencies and prime contracting opportunities. So this is more subcontracting based here locally, but our subcontractors who happen to be minorities do not get paid. And that's systematic discrimination. That's the way you put someone out of business. So your competitors come from out of state, they're bigger people, they're bigger companies. They can kind of withstand not getting paid a little slow. And when they're paid slow by the city and pay their subs slow, they put us out of business. So essentially, honestly, the city program is putting us under. It really is. I've seen minority businesses not being paid for over a year. when the prime has been paid. Despite the code, like you said, you made a very strong statement. All of the statute doesn't matter. I mean, we've had so much statute, it's been in place for 40 years, and it took me to come along to try to implement it. But what we see is not the political will to implement what's actually written. And if we just followed what was written and made sure people were paid within 7 days of being paid by the city, things would be better. So we're really at a disadvantage. And I don't know that the federal government is aware of a lot that's going on in local municipalities. There are different programs, certainly, but it's really affecting our businesses. So that's why Donnie and I were encouraging people to get into the federal program and kind of just do away with the local programs, because it is more regulated and we actually see progress and not just talk.
Well, Bibi, the problem is so many people running it that look like us. And that's the frustrating part. We expect maybe somebody from a different community to put a monkey wrench in the machine, but not people that look like us. We don't understand this, Bibi.
Well, and it's really key to involve, like, if you can get the chief of staff or somebody aligned to say, here's what we need to do across the agency. Here's our vision. Here's our mission, and we need to hit certain targets. But apart from that, because ideally you could work together as a team to move the needle. But apart from that, and that's kind of how we did it with Valerie Jarrett at the White House. When Valerie hosts a meeting of 24 cabinet agencies, those cabinet officials all make sure they're there. And then that's how it was.
Because she gives you that look. She gives you that look like your mama gave you.
And actually, I hired her assistant of 28 years. She just started with me 2 weeks ago, Miss Catherine Branch. So I'm thrilled. You said prime contracting. We also have subcontracting goals, but our entire emphasis in my office in government contracting at SBA is really focused right now on prime, and historically has been. We are going to then, hopefully sometime in the next year, also start building up subcontracting. But what I always say to everybody is these are prime contracting goals established by Congress. And that's what the incredible historic value of this program that we have. It's about making sure that they get the United States of America as their client. It's their direct client, because that's a game changer for everybody. You go to the city, you go to a major corporation, and you say the United States government is my direct client. That's game changing. And
that's what we're trying to get our local people to understand. They don't get it. It's like you can hit them upside the head with a brick, but they want to push subcontracts, and then you're subjected to a prime that's not even from Baltimore, who doesn't want to pay you.
Right. We'd love to talk to you more offline about maybe some potential solutions that we could ask the administration for. But again, it comes down to political will, Donnie. We know that it has to come from the top. As she's saying, with Ms. Jarrett having those meetings and pushing the agenda, President Biden pushing that agenda, it has to come from the top, and it has to be a true goal of an administration. Otherwise, it's not going to happen. And we see it.
Yeah, and really empower you in your role, because you're the expert. So you work together with the top, and that's.
I'm no longer in the role, so that's we'll talk offline.
Yeah, but I will say a couple things. We have this concern where a lot of contracts were bundled over the last 5 years, actually. $60 billion that was taken out of small business contracts and given basically to larger corporations. And so that's also something. And, Mr. Busby has said this, like, you say that there's been a decrease in 8A participants. And I'm glad to say that it's actually been quite an uptick in applicants since President Biden joined the administration. We see it in my office every day. But he's like, but the contracts got to be there. The opportunities have to be there. And they are, and they continue to be. But, we also have to reverse this trend where, yes, it makes it easy on contract officers to just issue one big contract. But that's not the vision and mission of this president, nor the history of our country, which This goes back 7 decades, believe it or not, to FDR and then Senator Truman, who said, we run the risk of concentrating our contract opportunities, our business opportunities with the largest companies in the United States. And that's going to leave out a lot of what Senator Truman said, the little guys.
That's right.
And he said, we can't as a country afford to go in that direction. So that's when they first passed the Armed Services Procurement Act, focused on small businesses. So we got to do everything we can to protect that as a country and not repeat history. And so there's some of that going on here with the bundling that's going on. And again, we want to protect those opportunities, make sure they're accessible to our Black, Hispanic, tribal owned businesses, small businesses, veteran owned. There's a lot, women owned, there's a lot we got to do to make sure that we decentralize those and make them accessible again to our nation's innovators.
So are you going to be unbundling those contracts, and where did you see the highest concentration of those contracts getting bundled? I'm sure in the last administration.
It's pretty much across the board, but I will say what the biggest contracting agencies, so what's helpful for businesses to know, and I'm sure they already know, apart from Department of Defense, that's the biggest of all. They are about somewhere around $400 billion a year that the Department of Defense contracts. And I will say this, Secretary who was just confirmed, Secretary of the Navy, Del Toro, he was an 8A business owner.
Wow.
Yeah. Yes. So we're excited to connect with him and figure out ways that we can work with strategies with defense. They've actually been excellent. We very early on, the administrator and I went and met with Deputy Secretary of Defense, Kathleen Hicks, and started talking strategy, especially about this issue of bundling and just generally creating access. Then apart from that, some of the biggest contracting agencies are NASA. NASA is almost all contracting. Veterans Affairs, Health and Human Services. GSA is a big one, in part because of the schedules and the multiple award vehicles that they operate. And I know I'm missing one of them there. But, Homeland Security, Department of Homeland Security. So Administrator Guzman has also been meeting with many of them just to talk about our goals and strategies and partnering together. They've been exceptional. Secretary Mayorkas, Secretary McDonough, who is Obama's chief of staff, is really committed. I got to say, Susan Rice, Ambassador Susan Rice, head of the now Domestic Policy Council, is a real champion on this issue. So we're talking directly with the cabinet agencies, as well as working closely with the White House to figure out how we get back to unbundling. And it's a challenge because you hear it creates efficiencies, it saves the government money, and it saves taxpayer dollars. But on the flip side, if we are putting an emphasis on Buy America, which will be more expensive, if we're putting an emphasis on bringing back manufacturing in the United States, on worker organizing and unions, there's going to be more costs associated with that. It's the same thing with small business. This is the reason why they passed the Armed Services Procurement Act back then. And then in 1953, under Eisenhower, actually created the Small Business Administration, because it's not about necessarily creating a lot more efficiencies as it is tapping into more talent, more capabilities. Our nation's, some of the greatest thinkers around this country. And that actually ultimately yields much greater benefits for everybody, for our economy, for our communities, for our families. So that's what we got to protect here.
Well, subcontracting goals can help with some of that.
Exactly.
You can't unbundle.
And the rule of two. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
We know we don't have you long, but we haven't covered the White House almost one time during Trump. And when we got to the front gate, there was some community, they didn't have the identification, all of that. And I was glad to turn around because I didn't want to see that man no matter what. But we need an invite to be able to come back and cover this administration, because we covered Obama about 40 times. And we sent another set of reporters about a dozen times. So we have to be able to get back to you and give some on the ground coverage.
I would love that. And I'd love to connect you with our wonderful administrator, Isabella Guzman. I know she'd love to come on your show as well. So we can make that happen and work with you to connect you also with the team at the White House.
Yeah, we'd love to see our businesses in Baltimore. Baltimore, you hear a lot of negative things coming out of our city, but it is a beautiful city. You've experienced it. It's a great city. We have a wonderful talent pool. Before I left the office, we had about 1,500 certified businesses, which is great, for such a small city or market area. And we'd love to see our businesses thrive so we can have a lot of more good stories coming out of Baltimore City. We really are a resilient city with great businesses. Yeah. So we want to encourage them to do business, even with the SBA. You all have contracting opportunities as well. We ran our statistics, Donnie, on our contracting show. So we would love to speak to you more about it, and we'd love to have you all down and even do seminars with some of our local businesses.
Bibi, I did want to get one question in. Do you see brick and mortars going up or going down? As a small business owner, there are all kinds of programs out here enticing us to open a brick and mortar downtown or open a brick and mortar in an enterprise zone. What's your wisdom? What do you foresee?
I think a hybrid, some type of hybrid model, because and of course, if you have the expense of brick and mortar, it's difficult to pull that off. And if it's a smaller size office where you have a combination of virtual and in-office work, we're seeing that that's been working pretty well at the Small Business Administration. And eventually we're going to go back to, some type of mix. In part because I think it whatever you can do to also improve your employees' quality of life. So, at the local level, obviously, you're not going to have as long as a commute. In our case, a lot of us I live in Silver Spring, Maryland. So to get to Southwest DC, it could be 2 hours commuting every day, even more. So I don't know if this answers your question, but I think as a country and probably globe, we're going to head more toward that hybrid. But you can also start to see a lot more productivity. My head of HUBZone programs was telling me it's just been an increase in reviewing applications and finalizing these reviews with people working at home, because they tend to, maybe put in a little more time in the morning and more time in the evening. So, but I think what you're getting at is what kind of impact that's going to have in the community, especially when you have so many storefronts closed and you've got
malls. Our malls are struggling.
Yes, and it's a tough question. I mean, this is the first time any of us together face a pandemic. And, I tell my son all the time, this is going to define your whole generation, and how you see life going forward. And so we're all in this together, but we don't know exactly what's going to happen. I know in the case of Baltimore, there was so much redevelopment of mixed use places like Clipper Mill. But does that create a lot of jobs? I mean, it's beautiful and it's attractive and it's, but your question is how do we get back to job creation? How to rebuild communities? And I think Tamara, has a lot of great answers here on making sure there's an emphasis in the city on prime contracting. You get the businesses to be the primes, and it's a game changer, because when they're the subs, they're and again, subcontracting is really key too, because that's how a lot of people get their foot in the door and eventually get a local government as their partner or the federal government.
Can you get the president? Can you get the president to tell all of the mayors of the major cities exactly that right there? Can you get the president to talk to our mayor for 5 minutes and say prime for Black business?
I'll try to do my best. Might not come directly from me, but I know some of the people, some of his right hands will certainly get that across.
See, if Black businesses are doing better, they're going to hire Black people. And a Black person that's going to work in the morning is not likely to shoot somebody or rob somebody because they're going to work. The best crime fighting plan is a job.
That's right.
Well, and you know, I often say to people too, as Democrats and progressive Democrats, there's often an emphasis on social safety nets, which I gotta say, my father lives off Social Security. We're 5 kids now, 4 that are supporting him financially. So he has Medicare, thank God. But that said, when he opened a business 30 years ago with a group of his colleagues, he could have really used the opportunity to be a prime to state and local governments and maybe even federal governments. And that would have been a game changer for our whole family. So even though the social safety nets are critical, and you know, right now I know Senator Sanders is leading a lot of that in the Senate in terms of the budget reconciliation. But what we talk about at SBA and we talk about with our colleagues on the Hill is we've got to focus on revenue generation. We've got to focus on building our nation's business owners, Black, Latino, you know, because if we're only focused on when things don't work out, at least you've got those safety nets, you know, and not, wait a second, you are our nation's, you know, again, I keep using the word innovative thinkers, right? Creators. Let's figure out what we can do to empower you, because that's going to lead to more jobs. It's going to lead to better health outcomes. It's going to, like you said, reduce crime. When people have jobs, you don't see that same, you know, crimes statistics essentially that you would otherwise. So we need a balance of both. We need policies across the spectrum, from living wage to wealth creation. And that's what business ownership is about. It's wealth creation, creating legacy wealth, passing it on to generations, transferring that knowledge. That's the spectrum you know, that we need to focus on. And as a political appointee under this administration, you know, for Democrats as well, that entire spectrum is really key. And so I hope that we continue to look at that. And I will say that in my office, again, we've been put together a plan that we hope will go through budget reconciliation, focused on potentially creating government contracting curriculums at historically Black colleges and universities and minority serving institutions. So if it goes through, there'll be a few billion potentially that we will have to invest in HBCUs and MSIs, as they call it.
And we're not going to give HBCUs a pass. We want you to keep your foot in their butt to make sure that they are hiring Black businesses. A lot of times, nobody wants to say this, but I'll say it. Everybody must be accountable, including our HBCUs. A lot of times, you know, they're receiving, but they got to remember, as you receive, you got to give.
Yes. Well, I will say, going back to your point, Tamara, is we got the anchor institutions in Baltimore can also lead, especially while you are working, you know, all of you are working and advocating with the city. But you've got Johns Hopkins, you've got University of Maryland, and you know, what are they doing to contract directly with Black-owned businesses in the city of Baltimore? Because again, that's going to make a huge difference if they can then go to corporate America and say, Johns Hopkins is my client, my direct client, you know?
Hopkins does have a Hopkins local program, which I was a member of for some time. I'm not sure what University of Maryland is doing, but again, we look to our local government. It's just not, it's honestly not working at all. So we saw in Boston a disparity study recently come out where the numbers were so disturbing on minority contracting that they went to the Justice Department for some assistance and filed complaints. And so we are probably going to have to rely on the justice system to help and oversight, a program here, because all of the work that you're doing federal and, it's not going to move as much if locally we're not getting it right either, because that impacts, the businesses. And I know President Biden is concerned about the crime as well. So we have to work collectively, and we may have to rely on something like the Justice Department to ensure that these programs are not discriminating while you all are trying to build, you have local programs that are internally discriminating.
And I would add to that, Tamara, that we need you to tell our U.S. senators and our congressmen and women the same thing. It has to be a seamless, we've got to all be on the same page, and as opposed to the city saying one thing, the state saying another, the Fed saying another. We need our local reps who are in DC and Annapolis to understand this too, because I don't think they always do. I think we assume they do, but they may not.
Yeah, it's going to take a collaborative effort, particularly with the pandemic. Again, like we were talking about, the super small businesses are just closing, they're non-existent. You did speak of a lot of people reaching that ceiling in corporate America and then starting their own businesses, but there are a lot of us, because of normal practices, that can't reach that ceiling in corporate America, but we still have to go off and start a business, to survive. So we really have to have a collaborative effort. I think federal, state, and at a local level. If we were all on the same sheet, I think we'll see a lot of progress throughout.
Bibi, I got to put a plug in for Black women business owners, because they are leading our community across the nation, especially right now. Any thoughts on that particular demographic, Black women business owners?
Yeah, we just met a few weeks ago with, it's the National Association of Black Women in Construction. I love that. Black women in construction. And so our hope is, and, Tiffany, for example, was working prior to joining us about now, I think a month ago, was vice president at Brooklyn Navy Yard. And she was also in charge of their small business policy there. And so that's part of the reason why I wanted to have her join and help us think about ways that we can connect with our women-owned entrepreneurs, Black-owned, again, I say all the groups, but there's so much work we have to do there to ensure that they get access. And again, in non-traditional industries like construction, like engineering, asset management, investment banking. That's something going back to the Obama administration, we'd hear from businesses all the time. Like, don't default to just the typical things you hear, but the higher margin. What are you doing to make sure they hire our Black and Hispanic owned businesses in higher margin activities that will really generate a lot more jobs? So I hear you on that. And we're hopeful that we can really do a lot to support our women-owned business leaders, our Black women-owned business leaders in the United States.
So what do you think, Tamara? Is the lady is she the bag? Is she the goods or what?
Sounds great. Thank you so much. I just, being an Afro-Latina, again, when you talked about that corporate ladder, when I do interviews of anybody coming on our show, I look at the company, I look at the board of directors, and you will always see a white man. And you will always see a white woman, but sometimes you just never see a woman that looks like me. So I just encourage the SBA to focus on, folks like us that really don't get opportunities, because as I hit the door, it closes often. So we appreciate the work that you all are doing. Thank you.
Well, likewise. I'd love to hear about the work you've done in Baltimore, and I know we'll continue to do, and hope we can partner together
Yeah.
Baltimore has a very special place in my heart, and I'd love to do anything to be supportive. And thank you very much for having me on this morning, Donnie. I've really enjoyed talking to both of you. Feel free to reach out anytime. My great thanks also to Ron Busby for connecting us.
Oh, we got one more heavyweight question. This is still baseball season. We can't just give you a softball interview. I need to know the best crab cake you ever had in Baltimore. Now, I didn't say Baltimore, Baltimore. The best crab cake. Be careful now.
Oh gosh, that's a tough question.
What's your favorite seafood spot then?
Well, I really did like Bertha's mussels a lot.
That's a safe answer.
Yeah, is that safe enough?
That's safe enough.
But when I went to what was it, Union Market or Eastern Market? That was the first time I had in my life. I had oysters, believe it or not. So I don't know. I didn't get out enough, I have to say. I guess my exit here is that I had a newborn.
Well, when you come again, we're going to take you to Phase 10 and Terra Cafe. They are big supporters of our outreach, and maybe we have to make you a crab cake from scratch to give you from Big Mama's house. We had to get you a real crab cake.
I would love that.
Jumbo lump.
What was that?
Jumbo lump. It must be jumbo lump.
Oh my God! In that case, I'm there.
Yeah, it's about this big, softball size.
Oh God!
I would say my crab cake is bacalao, so I can make that for you.
Bacalao. Just saying it is fun.
I know.
Again, thank you very much. Que Dios te bendiga. By the way, mi abuelo is de San Juan, Puerto Rico, so got a little barricua.
Ah, qué bueno. Tú sabes que la administradora se va a San Juan en como 2 semanas. Yeah, she's going there soon. So
we only had you for 30. You gave us an hour. We're grateful. Special thanks again to Ron Busby and to your assistant Tiffany. She was nothing but the best. And we expect great things out of you. Please allow us to help broadcast even more of this empowering information.
Absolutely. Great to talk to both of you, and I hope we get together again soon.
Absolutely. Que Dios te bendiga.
Ciao.
So what you think, sis?
Oh, great. Really great. I know a lot of people are saying they're disappointed in the Biden administration. I really am not. I'm looking forward to what they're going to do.
What are they disappointed by?
I don't know. I really haven't gotten into the conversation. I don't have any facts.
Are these the same people protesting wearing a mask? Are these people saying that they lost, that the election was stolen? Look, just so you know, and I got to remember this. This is Taz, and Taz.
I know. I got to remember. I was looking at that too.
See, Taz, you keep throwing us with this Jay Renee thing. Come on now.
But
Taz does the show on Saturday mornings at 10 a.m. And Taz, I was actually trying to work. You gave us so much feedback this show. I needed to send you a link.
Yeah.
I know it's me. She said it's me. Well, anyway, Taz does a show Saturday mornings. Oh. And guess who's going to be doing a show on the network come after Labor Day?
Malcolm X?
No, Michael Haney.
Look at that. Well, yes, he's a great supporter of the show. He's great. He's got a lot of insight. Speaks so well. I love listening to him. He's so calm.
So how is it that the feds have a better understanding of Baltimore business than Baltimore officials?
And when we had our show for contracting on Saturdays, when you hosted that show every Saturday,
Contractors College,
yes, that's what I was trying to emphasize. I did get some pushback from some of your other guests, but I'm telling you, the program, it's just better. You can see it. People actually graduate out of it, which it doesn't happen on a local level. And when you're getting prime contracting opportunities, it's the best.
I'll tell you something else that was very critical to appreciating a Bibi Hidalgo is that she's been a business owner. And I've been saying this since forever. It's just like the therapeutic value of one addict helping another addict overcome drugs. If you're a business owner, you have a much clearer understanding the therapeutic value of a business owner helping another business owner, as opposed to a bureaucrat who will allow your invoice to sit on their desk all weekend.
That's right.
For 4 weekends.
That's
and
right.
Don't get to it because they don't give a goddamn if you get your check or not.
That's right. It's difficult to explain to someone how a business is struggling to make payroll, how a business has to, pay their taxes, how a business has to keep their equipment. It's difficult to explain that to someone who's never done it, who's never even worked for a business. I mean,
you gotta keep your business current. If you don't keep your business current and pay that $300 to the state every year, some businesses won't do business with.
And if you're not current, if you're not current, you can't be on a city contract. So, and I actually had one experience with a minority business that was having trouble just keeping that state, keeping his business up to par.
Paying that $300 every year.
He struggled so much with a city contract as a subcontractor. So,
and let alone the mental aspect, because you out here hustling, you grinding, you keeping the lights on, you keep the water, but damn, I don't have that $300 to keep me current. That means I'm not going to get this contract. I'm talking about the mental and then you might have a spouse that understands or don't understand, or you got children that need this and need that. Yeah. The mental, and I'm going to keep pushing it through this COVID thing, especially. Don't get too hungry, too angry, too lonely, too tired. Call up your friend. Tamara, I need your help. I don't know what you're doing. I need your help. Help. Say help.
Yeah, absolutely. We got to support each other through this.
And don't wait till it gets to the worst part. Just think, hey, I don't know how to do this. I need your help.
That's right. Yeah, we have to support each other. We're going to get through it. We are resilient. We've been through a lot more, and we're gonna get this done. We are going to come out with a lot of Black businesses doing very, very well in the city. Yeah.
Get my book, I Am Black Wall Street. The next book, I'll have you in there tomorrow, because I didn't know we were just coming to know each other. But again, this lady right here, Jay Renee Tasmia, she's on the air tomorrow at 10 a.m. Tomorrow, your show is
live from Harlem. I wish I was going to be up here this weekend.
Well, yes, she'll be in Harlem tomorrow. Mm-hmm. Also, your show, Sister Biz. Let's plug Sister Biz. Come on, tell them what you've been doing.
Every Wednesday, we've been, Sister Biz is about sisters in business, but we also give our local government the business. So all of this impacts our businesses. So we will hear us talking a lot about the city government, which is near and dear to Nicole and I. And we give them the business because that impacts our businesses. Who's running the city, how they're running it, that impacts us.
I appreciate y'all so much, because people start talking about me. All they talk about is y'all there.
I hope it's all good, but you know what? I can tell you, if it's coming out of Sister Biz, it's all true. So you got to take it.
They say your show like Omar on The Wire. Watch out, here come Omar.
Here comes Nicole.
Got the trench coat with the shotty underneath.
I'm gonna do that picture of Nicole coming down the street.
Here come Omar.
Here comes Nicole. Yes. Yeah. We definitely, we're using our bat, and we're hitting it out of the park, but we're being very transparent and very open. And I think the people of the city deserve that, because they're getting so much gray and shade and so much from City Hall and other places. I think it's good for them to get some real info from a real network, and we speak the truth. It's unbiased. It really is. It is the truth.
One thing, and I gotta say this, Taz and I, we worked on the Black Business Empowerment Commission, and I'm glad BB conformed. My folks in Harlem do not play that minority business thing. They don't want to hear nothing about minority. They want to hear Black business. If you ever get around Walter Edwards, Regina Smith from the Harlem Business Alliance, do not say minority business. You might get smacked, stabbed, poked, shot. They don't want to hear nothing about minority. We are Black.
Amen.
And Black elected officials, we need you to say Black. In Annapolis, at City Hall, at the White House, Black business. Here, the Latino lady was talking about Black business, but we sometimes afraid to say Black. I want y'all to look in the mirror and say Black business. Say it 100 times. I ain't no damn minority. I'm Black.
The federal government is completely different than the city. The people working in the city couldn't last in the federal government. They just wouldn't be able to get away with the things they're getting away with.
But no, we're talking about equity.
Well, we're not talking about equity.
Where's the equity? Black people are 66% of the city. Where's the equity?
Well, we'll see if the $600,000 every 6 month consultants that were just awarded a contract with the city can figure that out after having all of these high paid executives.
Are they from Baltimore?
I do not believe they are.
Oh, so we spending money elsewhere. We spend money everywhere, but with the homies.
Well, let's just see what they do.
You're supposed to take your home, and that's what Biden trying to get these people to understand about Afghanistan. We could be spending that money on home. I'd rather be strengthening my home than to be over there meddling and signifying. It's all about heroin anyway. Ain't that what they got in Afghanistan? The poppy seeds.
I don't know what's going on over there. I mean, I'm a veteran, and I do understand ensuring that terrorism is shut down, around the world, especially in our country. We have to stop.
I'm not fighting for you if you ain't gonna fight for yourself.
Right.
And I don't like them little people. Them old dudes be sending the young dudes out there with bombs strapped to them. That's some coward action, Jack.
Absolutely, it is.
You're gonna go to heaven and have 72 virgins. No, you're gonna be dead.
Right. It's unfortunate what happened in Afghanistan yesterday. It was very.
You can't beat them people.
Right.
I'm a drop the bomb type person. After what I started,
we are in another war because you can't kill 12 service members or more and get away with it. So unfortunately, we'll be back in war. And when she was talking about those Department of Defense contracts, we didn't have a lot of time to get into that, but that's going to brew more contracts with the Department of Defense. They have the strong budget because they have very big contracts, but a lot of our businesses don't engage in weapons and bullets and armor and things like that. Those aren't the areas where we have businesses. So we have to look at that. We need to this country is based on war. We're always in a war. We're always going to be in a war. So
a prayer for our city, a prayer for our state, a prayer for our country, a prayer for the world. My name is Donnie Glover. This has been another edition of the BlackUSA.News morning show. Join us tonight at 7 p.m. East Coast time, 4 p.m. West Coast time for Kamal Hubbard with Black USA Crypto News. Tamar Brown and Nicole Orr are on every Wednesday with Sister Biz, 7 p.m. East Coast time. And they are not playing. They are nicknamed Omar from The Wire.
Just Nicole, not me. Just Nicole.
Have a good evening, everyone. Stay out the heat. Drink plenty of water. Have a great day.